Previously on ALC201.
There was, of course, no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment. How often or on what system the thought police plugged in on any individual wire was guesswork. It was even conceivable that they watched everybody all the time. But at any rate, they could plug in your wire whenever they wanted to. You had to did live from a habit that became instinct, in the assumption that every sound you made was overheard, and accepting darkness, every movement scrutinized.
Okay guys, thanks very much for coming and talking to me on camera. Can you give us a bit of a recap about what our conversation was in the seminar room about 2 minutes ago and about 3 meters away?
So we're mainly just discussing how we're pretty much just like aware that we're being watched in like various locations in public or whatnot, and we don't really care in a way because it's like we're in an environment that's like just seems natural and normal, and I think the fact that we're being watched, like we're aware of it, but we don't really, it's not really a big deal to us because it just seems normal in a way.
Yeah. And I started to ask both of you about where the closest camera might be. We've got our mobile phones, so apart from mobile phones and the laptops that are there, and the the webcam on the computer potentially at the front. If I can ask, what did you have to say about where the closest camera might be?
Well, firstly, I was looking around the room to see if there was a CCTV camera in a corner hidden away, but couldn't find one, and yeah, we just happened to find one which we didn't realise was right outside the room.
Exactly right. And so I asked you how many meters away was the closest security camera, and you weren't quite sure.
No, we had no idea where it was.
Great. And actually you're representative of pretty much everyone in the room,
yep.
I imagine as well. And so if I just pan right here, we have a security camera outside the door that we walk into every single week we have class, which I myself didn't notice for 3 weeks. What do you think about that?
Scary.
Yeah. They got it in like a pretty good spot. Like a lot of people just walk past there and not really notice it. It's like, right above their heads.
It's so big and bulky, and
yeah,
I did not realise it was there.
Hi everyone. I was talking to students last week about the increasing pervasiveness of participatory creation and collaborative co-construction in contemporary media industries. A prime example of this is Kickstarter, which is just one of many crowdfunding sites that enable various kinds of media producers to engage with their prospective audiences or customers, which might better be labelled what we've been calling prosumers. Given that pledging to help secure funding for a project on Kickstarter frequently involves various degrees of influence on or input into how the final product takes shape. Crowdfunding is arguably revolutionising certain industries. And to take the example with which I'm most familiar here, there are currently 200 board, card and miniature game projects that are currently seeking funding as I speak. And there have been over 4,500 tabletop game projects over the last few years in total, the vast majority of them of which have been successfully funded. By the way, it's not quite as engaging when I'm reading off notes, is it? And if I was to put a laptop to the right of the camera there, and it became quite clear that I was reading off the screen after a little while, that would be pretty ordinary too. The same goes for when you're reading off the screen when getting filmed by a webcam. So, keep that in mind for your assessment coming up. You should aim to plan, script, and if you're going to perform, also rehearse in order to engage your viewers as much as possible. And if you make a mistake, you can always edit it out if you screw up, if you stuff up, if you mess up. But getting back to the importance of creative collaboration. As an experiment, and I'd never done this kind of thing before, so I had no idea how it would turn out, I showed students a movie trailer template in iMovie for iPad, and asked for some brainstorming of ideas that would inform the process of making a short mock trailer on surveillance. Here's what we came up with. Thank you to everyone who helped bring this to life. The process of collating and reviewing students' ideas, shooting the footage, which I did when arriving on campus or walking to or from seminars, then editing it together into a complete 1-minute movie and uploading it onto my laptop to include in this meLecture, would likely have taken me over an hour of work, which given the length of the trailer and the overall length of this meLecture, was really as long as I'd hoped to spend on such a small film. Of course, if I'd taken on board all of the ideas that students came up with, the making of this trailer would have involved filming and/or interviewing a range of people at a clothing store, a swimming pool, an airport, and a police station, as well as strapping a camera onto Tiffany and breaking into a security office to steal the CCTV footage. There are two very important points to take from this. Part of this exercise was to stress that when making a video, you need to be realistic about what's possible, particularly when dealing with specific and quite limited time constraints. It's also clear from this example that making a relatively short video can take more time than you think, so you can't leave anything until the last minute, you just can't afford to lose marks for lateness. Remember that when I said it took about an hour to put that trailer together, that doesn't include the upload time and making sure that things work after you've finished. But from this experiment, you can see the potential that creative collaboration offers. Participatory practices like this will undeniably be a big part of the future, and no doubt a big part of your future. And with this in mind, I have an opportunity for you. Following on from Exploration Week, and now that the hectic start to the trimester and assessment preparation time has settled down, I'd like to offer any keen students the chance to form an informal, fully online study group. This will seem to be a fairly old-fashioned concept to some people, but study groups are still formed pretty much automatically in many educational contexts. If you've ever watched the TV show Community, for instance, you've got the general idea of what a study group is, but I promise that it won't be anywhere near as involved as in that program. This would not be part of the formal assessment. It's not worth any marks and it's not compulsory. But remember that I stressed in an early study notes document that you get just as much, if not more, out of the informal assessment. The main goal of this is not to produce any formal output, but to connect and collaborate with other people in the unit through perhaps unfamiliar media, and you can discuss and debate the relevant week's topic. I will provide some preliminary guidance, but the key is that students will have the flexibility to choose what they want to do. They could try out communicating with media such as a doodle poll, setting up that to find out people's availability, Skype, a Google Hangout, Google Drive, etc. It'll be up to the group as to how they connect, how often they do so, and with what aims. I might get enough volunteers to form more than one group. I might not get enough people to form any group at all. But the opportunity is there. If you're interested, please email me by Tuesday the 2nd of August. Another opportunity I have to offer is to put you in touch with Deakin's new Cloudmobile that's run by the Teach Assist team. I dropped in to see this team earlier today to get an idea of what they had on offer, and it's a funky little van they've got set up. They can give you a brief introduction to some filmmaking devices and applications, and I learned about 3 apps for the iPad that I'm going to download immediately tonight. While the team is principally focusing on professional development for staff, they are also very open to engaging with students. And given that you are about to embark on a filmmaking project of your own, you might find it a very valuable experience. If you would be interested in me putting you on a list to pass on to the Cloudmobile team, who might be able to organise a way for you to have a visit, please email me. To make it easiest, let's make the deadline for this Tuesday the 2nd of August as well. As far as I know, the van's based at the Burwood campus at the moment, but if you're interested in finding out whether it does travel between campuses, let me know as well. So please send emails to me at abrown@deakin.edu.au if you'd like to express interest in joining an online study group and or being put in touch with the Teach Assist team running the Cloudmobile by Tuesday the 2nd of August. Something that I found really interesting when this unit first ran in 2013 was that the meLecture for this topic, Sexing Up New Media, actually by the end of trimester had more views than even the welcome video, which seemed to attract all those people with a fetish for me screaming on a bungee bullet ride. And the possible or plausible reason why this meLecture would have had more views than any other is a curious one. I'm tempted to think it was my strange transformation of my living room into a supermarket, which seemed to mess with a lot of students' heads at the time. But I don't think that was it. And I'd like to think it was my classic prank on my brother. The topics we're looking at this week are cybersex, online dating and pornography. And I remember one thing my brother said in year 11. We made a video for school and he told me what he thought about pornography.
It's my favourite.
Okay, that might have been taken slightly out of context. But I actually think it was because I listed cybersex, online dating, and perhaps most importantly, pornography, as search keywords on the video. I'm sure anyone who checked out the video for this reason was sorely disappointed, as my mankini was at the dry cleaners that week. But nonetheless, it is an interesting issue. Some footage I took recently in a class for a first-year media studies unit reminded me of something we can easily forget. It gave me a perspective from the back of a lecture theatre that I haven't had for a number of years. Our reliance on screen media these days is astounding, and this only increases with every year. Whether it be for education, entertainment, online shopping, navigating our way around the city, or forming and sustaining relationships with people, digital media culture is an intrinsic part of our everyday lives. Is there a chance that anybody in this room could be updating their online dating site profile, or sexting with their partner, or perhaps even watching porn? Well, the question would have been absurd not so long ago, but the rise of digital media means that technically the answer is yes, it is possible, although perhaps somewhat unlikely in this context. When we talk about the issues we're dealing with this week, some of the most frequent phrases I hear are things like online sex and online dating. But as I've been asking in seminars, given the evident trend of these things becoming more and more naturalised as the years go by, will we actually say this in the future, or will it just be sex and dating? Anyone who is currently in a relationship is technically living, at least in part, and in some cases perhaps a large part, an online relationship. Although your instinct might not be to actually think this at first. Think about the amount of time you spend text messaging or sending Facebook messages or talking on Skype with a partner. In a sense, you are in an online relationship. Of course, this doesn't mean digital media will cause us just to get with anyone, as much as polemical current affairs media often makes it sound like this is the case. We always get to express our preferences.